professors of Reddit, what are your experiences with the urban legend about students offering sexual favors for better grades? A girl I know taking 2 classes about German history that were in separate departments, but she was fortunate to be able to write a single paper that could be used in both. She was dating one of the 2 teachers. She received an A from the teacher she was dating. She received a D from the teacher she was not dating. I knew 2 girls who did this in college to pass calculus, but nobody gave a shit. In high school, there were also a few girls sleeping with teachers. That's pretty common here in Brazil. Time to learn Portuguese and become a calculus teacher there. There were a few girls that would be suggestive or flirty and try to bring attention to a low skirt or open cleavage when they'd come to discuss their low grades. Too bad for them, I'm gay and their parlor tricks had no effect on me. Although there was one guy who took my class only because he saw me on Grindr and wanted to sleep with me. When I refused, he threatened to get me fired and then reported that I was making advances on him. Fortunately, I had all this documented and had already reported it prior, so I didn't have to worry about any of it, but it was a bit of an eye-opener on how far people will go. I respectfully asked one of my college professors out. Didn't need a better grade, she was just freaking beautiful, and not interested. Also, I was a non-traditional student, so a couple of years older than the typical grad student. The history teacher's daughter was banging the music teacher when I was in high school. They got married and are very happy 15 years later. Not a professor, but taught a college intro class. I had a student tell me it was her birthday and that if I went to the bar to celebrate it with her, she'd make it worth my while as long as she didn't have to take the test the next day. I went home, told my girlfriend, now wife, what she said. This is when my girlfriend told me that she, the student, was probably implying sexual favors for grades. I didn't make it to the bar, and she looked miserable taking the test the next day. I believe she passed, but barely. I once got some personal counseling based on a referral from a friend. He advised against dating women seriously in their 20s as they are a different person at age 30 than at age 20. When I mentioned this to my friend, he choked on his drink. He's married 3 of his graduate students in the past 10 years. One of my friends tried that approach to raise his grade. His grade was raised just because the teacher didn't want to hear him propose that again. A guy I know, let's call him Manu, was banging his married French teacher for like an entire year in high school, but I think it was not for the grades but something deeper. Manu was always getting good grades, so other students started to be a bit jealous of him. He told everyone he was in love with her and will marry her later for sure. It was like 20 years ago and Manu is now married to her and president of France. Never had an advance, but I'm always kind of terrified of it. Microphones and cameras are everywhere these days. It only takes one accusation to ruin everything I've worked for. I tutor students that deserve extra help and I always make sure to do it in the lounge where security cameras are. I've sent a student worker home because all my colleagues left for the day. It was just me and her and no cameras in the building. She thinks I'm a little odd, but I've had some kid try to wreck my life before when I worked at a day camp because he was petty and the camp administration refused to give me a co-counselor and I was the only male on staff. The kid exploited a gap, and I had a bad time and a long investigation. I ended up fine and the kid apologized in the end. A written confession and apology, but still. It could have gone another way and I didn't have the money to lawyer up. So I'm with you on this. I work at a college and we had to do mandatory sexual harassment training last year. It was for faculty and staff at the entire university, 4,000 people. Interesting fact, as long as it's consensual and one party does not control the financial pay of the other, it was okay. I don't remember the issue of grades for 6 coming up, but they did cover quid pro quo for money. We had an adjunct faculty member get kicked out for doing something stupid on a trip with a student. I don't know the specifics, but he was a strange guy. Yeah, you aren't going to get many teachers to confess this on Reddit. Just the off chance that someone figures out who you are can mean you lose everything. One of my teachers paid dearly 20 years after something like this occurred and the school found out. It happened while he was teaching in college and he lost his HS teaching job over it. I was an instructor at a university for nearly 10 years in my 20s to early 30s, was never offered even one time. I guess I'm not as good looking as some of these Casanova professors. I'm an old female professor. I must have been in my 50s when this happened. I didn't sleep with a student, but I think I was propositioned. After the final exam was over, he wouldn't leave. I packed up and started walking out and he followed me. He kept talking about his course grade. I told him to check next week to see if grades were available. Yada, yada. He was very persistent and handed me a small wrapped present. I didn't want the present but took it so as not to be rude. He was an international student from Latin America, a short little fellow. He kept following me, begging about his grade, and it made me uncomfortable. I suppose eventually I got to my car and drove away. When I finally got around to opening the gift, I was disgusted to see it was a pencil drawing of the student. He was shirtless and the button to his pants was suggestively undone, showing hair on his stomach pointing to his crotch, as I recall. This must have been a course that ended at Christmas, because the creepy drawing was still in the house when my son and his girlfriend visited along with some of my other kids. I can't remember if they saw the picture or I told the story first. They thought it was hilarious. My son's girlfriend took the picture and used it for a gag gift at office Christmas parties, resulting in great hilarity. I guess the Latin American culture is different from the Canadian culture. I can't remember whether the student passed or not. It was a big class and I didn't know his name. I think he skipped a lot of classes. Edit, I should mention that I am the fat, grandmotherly type. Speaking from experience as both a TA and a former adjunct, the offer does indeed happen. Here's why it was a no-go for me. 1. I became a teacher because I actually care about other people and helping them. I put in extra hours, get people tutors, etc., because I want them to succeed. Sleeping with them undermines that goal. 2. It's desperate to make that offer and would make me feel like a total creep to accept it. 3. It creates a very uncomfortable power dynamic. I'm only intimate with people I have a genuine connection with and I find it distasteful for someone to get close to me simply because they want something. Had a female student follow me to a back room, shut the door, and try and come on to me. This is a high school. I noped the duck out of there. I'm not even her teacher. Went and spoke with the principal but nothing more I know came of it. Maybe the principal did. My senior year in high school, my English teacher is calling us each back to her desk to review our grade. I have checked out of high school, at this point, because I already know I don't intend to attend a university. She shows me my failing grade. I proceed to put my hand on her knee as I am squatted down desk height, and I say to her, I will do anything to pass this class. The look on her face as she removed my hand still cracks me up to this day. I did well on the final and walked with everybody else. I have never heard of the straight quid pro quo attempt at trading 6 for grades actually happening. When a student flirts with an instructor, it comes across more as pursuing a taboo. Sometimes students work more closely with profs, usually grad students, and then the attraction is real. I've had both happen. Students fall for me, and students take a drumkin shot at me when they see me at a bar in town, or awkwardly flirt after class or online. Now the most common way this happens. I never thought they were trying to improve their grades. It has happened to me several times. 3 times it was flat out, I will duck you for an A. 1 time I was a smartass and said, what will I get for a C+? She was not amused. A few other times they'd be saying stuff like, what can I do to get a better grade? Or, I'll do whatever I need to do for a better grade, while smiling and acting suggestively. It has happened to most of my male colleagues and one of the women. Happened to me once in 14 years. Student was bipolar in a manic phase. She was in bad mental state. I got her in touch with campus mental health resources, which got her the help she needed. Turns out that she had a long history of this kind of behavior but was never diagnosed, treated. Parents just wrote her off as a problem child. The decline in her behavior was obvious over the course of the semester. She thanked me years later in a very heartwarming letter. Yeah, I took the high road and actually helped someone by not having 6. I had 2 different professors destroy their marriages over cheating on their spouses with their own students. The male prof was with a female undergrad and it didn't work out. His wife took their kids. The university censured him instead of firing because of tenure. He wasn't allowed to meet with students alone, and the rest of the faculty gave him the cold shoulder, etc. The female undergrad had left him and blown up their secret over the slight of not being chosen for a semi-prestigious editor job. Not that prestigious, I was 1 year before, never had to ride big dig for it, and no one ever cared it was on my resume. Anyhow, last I heard he bailed on academia and took off for the coast, making do on freelance work. The female prof hooked up with her male grad student who was about 14 years younger than her, got pregnant. Her marriage ended, but she married the student. No official censure from the university, and the student not only graduated but stayed on as an adjunct as well. They're still together, and the whole thing never really got treated much like a scandal, at least not openly. Professionally, these were the 2 professors I looked up to most, and as a result my own wife was worried I'd hit my own marriage-destroying midlife crisis. I totally dodged that bullet by virtue of being entirely unaccomplished in my field and not very handsome. Shows her. I had always thought this was a myth, but different versions happen about once per year. My favorite version was a female student in one of my classes. She made an appointment, came to my office in a tiny skirt, sultry voice engaged, I'll do anything for a higher grade, hand on my shoulder, literally the works. It was like she watched a made-for-Comedy Central movie. Nope, 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 nope. Me, no, and you need to leave. First of all, I share an office with a female colleague who was in the office watching this happen. She about died laughing. Second of all, you aren't that hot. Mostly because the kids I teach could easily be my children. You are basically children to me. Sorry kids, no amount of strange is worth ducking up my career. Not much else I can do with this PhD. P.S. For the rest of the semester, any meeting she and I had, the department head got a heads up. My office mate was there, and the door was open. Really late to the party, and also not a professor but have a story to share. In high school senior year, there was a new teacher in the English department. Let's call her Miss Goldman. And I'm not exaggerating when I say to this day she was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. She is the very definition of hitting the genetic lottery. Curvy body, hypnotic eyes, and a smile worth $1 million. Me and my friends, being horny 18-year-old high schoolers obviously infatuated with her, would brown nose every chance we could. Anyway, after graduation she had promised me and a few others she would friend us on Facebook once we were no longer her students. This girl's social media page was basically soft-core porn. Cleavage and auras in every picture. That's not the best part though. That summer after senior year, me and my buddy had never been to a strip club and decided to go to one weekend. I googled popular ones in the area and we decided on one that was about an hour away, but the reviews were great compared to others. We get to the strip club and what do you know is the first thing we see is Ms. Goldman on stage in the middle of a dance butt naked. It was one of the wildest dreams come true. She spotted me and my friend, and to my surprise she came right over to talk to us. After some awkward small talk she offers me a dance and I emphatically accept. There were two options. You can pay $20 for 10 min in a kind of public area for a lap dance, or $40 for 20 min in the private area. Of course I chose the private area. We get to said private room and she asks me to please not tell anyone else she works here. I agree, and without asking she pulls my pants down and gave me the best handy I've ever gotten, along with some other intense things. I gave her a really nice tip and kept my promise that I wouldn't tell anyone her other employment. I became a regular at this club specifically for her. Moved out of the area so don't know if she still works there, but we are still friends on Facebook. 10/10 would fly back to New Jersey just to see if she does.